Before Jeff Bezos, before Elon Musk, there was a man who built an empire that would be worth an estimated $400 billion today. He didn't invent some radical new technology, he simply conquered an industry. This is the story of John D. Rockefeller, a humble bookkeeper who became America's first ever billionaire. So how did he pull it off? What were the financial secrets and brutal strategies he used to control 90% of America's oil and build the most powerful monopoly in history? Today we're pulling back the curtain on the man who basically wrote the playbook for modern capitalism. John D. Rockefeller wasn't born into wealth. Born in 1839 in upstate New York, his childhood was a strange mix of contradictions. His father was a traveling con artist, literally nicknamed Devil Bill, who sold sham miracle cures. Meanwhile, his mother was a devout Baptist who hammered into him the values of hard work and saving every penny. This blend of grift and godliness would forge the man he was to become. At just 16 years old, Rockefeller landed his first job as an assistant bookkeeper in Cleveland. For him, this wasn't just a job, it was a calling. He became almost religiously obsessed with numbers, keeping a tiny personal ledger. He called it Ledger A, where he tracked every single cent that came in and went out. This obsession wasn't just about being cheap, it was about understanding the DNA of a business. He could see where every dollar was born and where it died. He understood profits, losses, and waste in a way almost no one else did. This ledger was his first and maybe his most important financial secret. To control an empire, you first have to control the pennies. That discipline became the bedrock of everything he built. When the oil boom exploded in Pennsylvania in the 1860s, most people saw chaos. Rockefeller saw opportunity. While everyone else was gambling on striking it rich by drilling for oil, Rockefeller realized the real money wasn't in finding it, but in refining it. In 1863, he built his first refinery, and by 1870 he incorporated the Standard Oil Company. And this is where the quiet bookkeeper starts to get ruthless. Rockefeller's first masterstroke was pure, cold-blooded genius. He decided to weaponize the railroads. Back then, transportation was one of the biggest costs for any business. Rockefeller knew the railroads needed his business just as much as he needed theirs, so he didn't approach them like a customer. He approached them like a king. He promised them enormous, consistent shipments of oil. In return, he didn't just ask for a discount. He demanded secret rebates, a refund on every barrel he shipped. But he took it a step further. He also negotiated drawbacks, a scheme where the railroads would actually pay him a portion of the shipping fees they charged his own competitors. Think about that. His competition was paying more to ship their oil, and a slice of that money was going directly into Rockefeller's pocket. It was a strategy so effective it was basically cheating. This all came to a head in 1872 in what S now called the Cleveland Massacre. Armed with his secret railroad deals, Rockefeller went to his 26 competitors in Cleveland and gave them a simple choice: sell your company to me, or I'll put you out of business. Facing financial ruin, 22 of them sold out in just 6 weeks. In one move, Rockefeller had seized control of the nation's oil refining heartland. With Cleveland conquered, Rockefeller set his sights on the rest of the country. He used a two-part strategy that business schools still study today: horizontal and vertical integration. Horizontal was simple: buy out everyone. He continued his Cleveland strategy, giving rivals a choice: take Standard Oil stock and get rich with me, or try to compete and go bankrupt. Most took the stock. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled about 90% of American oil refining. But that wasn't enough. Rockefeller wanted to own every single step of the process. That's vertical integration. He bought forests to supply the wood for his barrels. He bought the plants to make the barrels. He built his own pipelines to move the oil. He controlled the warehouses, the wagons, everything. By owning the entire supply chain, he cut out every middleman and slashed his costs so low that no one could touch him. If a competitor needed barrels, they had to buy them from a supplier. Rockefeller was the supplier. His brutal efficiency was his greatest weapon. Maybe Rockefeller's most underrated secret was his personality. He wasn't a loud, flashy tycoon. He was quiet, unnervingly patient, and an incredible listener. In tense negotiations, he would often just stay silent, letting his opponents get nervous and talk themselves into a bad deal. He was obsessed with information, using a network of spies to report on his competitors' businesses. He often knew more about their finances than they did themselves. When it was time to make a move, he already held all the cards. Competitors who came in expecting a fight were met by this calm, quiet man who would simply lay out the facts of their inevitable defeat with mathematical certainty. He didn't make threats. He just explained the logical outcome if they resisted. It was terrifyingly effective. By the turn of the 20th century, Standard Oil was more powerful than most countries, a global monster that could set the price of oil for the entire world. But that total dominance made it a target. The public and the government started to fear this unchecked power, and Rockefeller was painted as the ultimate robber baron. Finally, the government sued Standard Oil under the new Sherman Antitrust Act. In 1911, the Supreme Court handed down a historic verdict. Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly and had to be dismantled. The empire was ordered to be broken up. But here's the ultimate irony of Rockefeller's financial life. The breakup was supposed to be his downfall. Instead, it made him richer than he had ever dreamed. Standard Oil was shattered into 34 separate companies, the ancestors of modern giants like ExxonMobil and Chevron. As the largest shareholder, Rockefeller now owned a huge piece of all of them. The value of his shares in these new independent companies exploded. His personal fortune skyrocketed, making him America's first official billionaire by 1916. The government tried to break his monopoly, and in doing so, accidentally made him the richest man in modern history. Having conquered business, Rockefeller turned to his second act, giving all that money away. And he approached philanthropy with the same ruthless efficiency he used to earn it. He didn't just write checks. He built institutions designed to solve humanity's biggest problems. He founded the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. His money funded the development of a vaccine for yellow fever and helped completely eradicate hookworm in the American South. He gave away over $500 million in his lifetime, billions in today's money, and revolutionized modern philanthropy in the process. John D. Rockefeller's story is a masterclass in ambition, strategy, and the dark side of power. If you love digging into the stories of historical figures who shaped our world, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. And let us know in the comments, was Rockefeller a visionary captain of industry or a ruthless monopolist? So, who was John D. Rockefeller? In the end, he was both a villain and a hero, a ruthless capitalist who crushed anyone in his path and a groundbreaking philanthropist whose generosity is still saving lives today. His story is really the story of American capitalism itself, that constant battle between the relentless drive for profit and the moral responsibility that comes with wealth. His strategies of total market domination and radical efficiency aren't just relics of the past. They're the same principles we see in today's tech giants, who, just like Standard Oil, have completely reshaped our world. John D. Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire. He wrote the blueprint for the modern billionaire, and we are all still living in the world he helped create.